Sup, freaks? This rip of RHR was brought to you by our good friends at Coinkite. They produce the Cold Card Q, my favorite hardware wallet. It's got 2 secure enclaves. It's got a full screen, full keyboard here. As you can see, if you're watching, if you can't watch, just imagine something that looks like a BlackBerry. It allows you to create private public key pairs offline in an air-gapped fashion. You never have to connect the Cold Card Q to an internet device. You can sign transactions and PSBTs remotely in the most secure fashion. If you're a Bitcoin Power user and you're looking for the best security, go pick up a Cold Card Q. You can go to coinkite.com, find the Cold Card Q there. I think you can go to coldcard.com as well. Use the code RHR for 5% off. Step up your security. Get a Cold Card Q.
This rip was brought to you by our good friends at Bitkey. If you have friends, family members who are newbies, they still have their Bitcoin on the exchange, help them take the first step off the exchange. Bitkey makes it very easy. It's a hardware device that has a multi-sig. The hardware device has a key. Your mobile phone app has a key. And Block has a key in the cloud. They've designed this with trade-offs to make it very hard to lose Bitcoin. Easy to use, hard to lose. Go to bitkey.world. Use the code RHR or RHR20 at checkout to get a discount. Not sure exactly which one it is yet. Try both. Go check it out. bitkey.world. Try RHR or RHR20. This rip was also brought to you by our good friends at Stakwork. If you're looking for a great way to make KYC-free sats, Stakwork has bounties. Go to stakwork.ai, find their bounties page, and contribute to the bounties. You can make Bitcoin KYC-free for completing the bounties. If you're a developer looking to scoop up some easy sats, go check out the bounties, contribute to them, and stack some sats. Stakwork.ai.
Doggy. First rip from the new office, from the Philly RHR outpost.
I love it.
What do you think? What do you think? You like the background?
That wired, I have a Ride or Die Freak sent us both that Cypherpunk wired issue, and that's just epic. I fucking love that.
Shout out to you,
much better
Freak.
than that.
You know who you are. I know you're listening. Thank you. And I know I've told you many times in the past that I took good care of it, got it framed. This other thing that's framed behind me, Philadelphia Inquirer from October 31st, 2008, the day the white paper dropped. It was also the day of the Phillies World Series parade, so I know exactly where I was. Shout out to Andrew Hones, who gifted this to me many years ago. Andrew, if you're out there, I kept it in good shape. I got it.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Do you have windows in your office?
I do.
That's good. I like having windows in my office. But is the sunlight hitting those things directly throughout the day?
No, it'll come in the morning.
Because you should be
my location, but
you should be wary of that, because I have some Yankees memorabilia that just got absolutely wrecked by sunlight in a frame.
That's a good point. I'll have to pull the blind down on the east window.
And it happens gradually, then suddenly. You don't realize it's happening, and then one day you wake up and you look over, you're like, what did I do? Just a heads up.
Yeah. Well, we got to hook the freaks. Anybody on YouTube, we're going to hook you. Michael Saylor says there's no more dumps left. Stick around. We'll tell you why that's maybe true. A kid. We had a mini dump.
No, we're actually going to be talking about that.
Are we?
So,
yeah.
It's a real hook. We had a mini dump. We had the Israel might attack Iran dump
last night. I was writing a newsletter about why we might never dump, and then that headline came across, and I completely just scratched that newsletter and wrote one about tuning all of that out, because it was 2 headlines yesterday. It was Israel and Iran, and then there was another one about the U.S. embassy in Iraq was evacuated.
It's the same thing. So the reason people are theorizing an attack is imminent is because of 3 data points. It's the embassy is evacuating. And it's like
shop's busy.
it's the 4 embassies that are like basically in between Iran and Israel. And then it's the pizza shops around the Pentagon, which is a crazy stat, that are all busy. They should eat healthier. But the pizza shops around the Pentagon are all busier than usual. And then the oil price spiked. And like maybe maybe that was a after effect. And then Bitcoin dumped. Right now, Bitcoin's added into the mix as one of the data points. But it could happen. I mean, it could happen live on air. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, I think this is all stemming from, I think, Secretary of Defense Hegseth came out and confirmed that Iran may be nearing the ability to enrich the uranium to weapons-grade uranium. But this is something that's been talked about for literal decades. I feel like we get the brink of weapons-grade uranium in Iran and then always step back. We'll see. I'm not going to say it's going one way or the other.
I think and the UN sanctioned them or something. The UN said that they broke their agreement. It's like the UN usually doesn't do stuff like that. But I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a geopolitics expert.
What are you talking about? We're geopolitical experts here at the show.
Oh, the other piece was, I guess some journalists asked Trump why were they evacuating embassies because Iran was about to be attacked, and he said, "You'll have to wait and see," which is like such a ridiculous answer.
Who knows what's going to happen? We'll find out. But as I wrote in the newsletter, try to tune it out. Focus on what you can control right in front of you to make your life better, to make your life.
Are we not live on YouTube right now?
This site for detecting if things are down is down.
Okay. Maybe things are popping off right now while we're on air.
Okay, well, we'll continue and hopefully...
Reports are coming in about YouTube fucking up right now.
Okay, fair enough. Fuck YouTube. Maybe it's all the Waymos that were burnt in LA. Did you see the evacuation of Waymos from LA?
Did you see the meme that came out of it?
No, what?
It was not appropriate for this show, but it was pretty funny.
Why is it not appropriate for this show?
It was Waymos are learning about white flight. It's just like running out of.
That's completely appropriate for the show. The way I've heard as a new parent, I sympathize with the people that have had complaints that they can't listen to the show with their children in the room. That's what earbuds are meant for. This is an earbud friendly show.
Yeah. I mean, I've told the story of Waymos. Waymos, speaking of children, they completely fascinate my children.
Can you imagine being in a Waymo in LA and it just drives you through a riot? Like you're just trying to get somewhere and just like a human driver would never do that. A human driver would see like all the cars burning and would just turn around. Just be like, fuck this shit.
I wonder if it has, because it has cameras inside, microphones inside. Like if you could just be like, don't go down this road, please. Please don't go this way. Turn here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anyone who burned them is going straight to jail because there's like 1 million cameras on the outside. So
yeah, good job. Paid protesters. Are they paid? What's going on? What's our take here?
I mean, probably some are.
Did you see that Sam Tripoli clip?
Like, what is it? Like, what's the, like, you really, you need like 5% of like paid agitators to like get everyone else going.
Yeah. I mean, it was BLM round 2. There was like pallets of cinder blocks randomly laying right in the path of the protest.
But the real question is, who wanted the protest to happen?
Did you see Sam Tripoli's? He was getting resurfaced. He was on Rogan like a year ago.
With the Rogan, yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Where he said the gay pride parades are over and now it's going to be immigration stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Moving on from the LGBTQ plus IA whatever to immigration.
Well, I mean, if you want to put your conspiracy hat on, Elon called Trump a pedophile, and then riots broke out in different cities, and we're going to war with Iran. So, yeah, kind of buried.
Like I said earlier in this episode in my newsletter last night, just zone it out, focus on what you can do, be productive, secure your personal life, your family life, your community, make some money, funnel it into Bitcoin, and try to make the world a better place. This is a lot of noise. There's a ton of noise out there right now. And it can be discombobulating. Okay,
so let's get away from the noise. You launched the Bitcoin Opportunity Cost app or Chrome extension yesterday or the day before. What is it?
2 days ago. So this has been in the works for 3 months. I mean, something we think about, right? We talk about that. I mean, we've been focused on this for 7 years now, which is Bitcoin education and marketing. And I was sitting there, number one, looking for a vibe coding project and thinking of the top of funnel for Bitcoin. And we know all too well, like you can tell people about Bitcoin many times over the course of many years, for both of us over the course of over a decade now at this point, and they may hear you, but are they listening and actually ingesting what you're saying? And the answer is likely no. They need to see things. And so the original iteration of this app was, I wanted to be able to take my phone, take a picture of like my laptop or a picture frame or a camera, whatever it may be, and then have it give me the price of it in Bitcoin. The idea being like you're shopping for something and you want to know like, should I buy this or should I smash buy Bitcoin? So I talked to Tony and Justin Moon at the park, and they gave me some vibe coding tools to work on that. So I actually built that MVP. Didn't really work. All the items and prices were hard coded, but I just wanted to see if I could do it, and actually built it and demoed it at the Bitcoin Park Austin, one of the AI meetups a couple of months ago. And then I was telling another friend, Luke Thomas, about it. And he was like, you know what? He just like quipped. He's like, I would love this as a Chrome extension. I was like, you know what? That's actually really smart and probably easier to build. So that Saturday I spent like 3 hours vibe coding with ChatGPT and Replit and built a Firefox and Chrome extension that I sideloaded into my browsers and played around with it for a few days. And for me, somebody's been in Bitcoin for 12 years. I was addicted to it. It was just really cool to see everything priced in Bitcoin. So at that point, I was like, all right, we should do something. So
like it literally pulls everything. Like you're looking on Twitter or whatever, like reads the tweets and like superimposes Bitcoin terminology in there.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. So I think so at that point I was like, all right. And this is something like I've thought about at TFTC. We've had many ideas for like apps and stuff, but never really felt comfortable paying a developer to go do it because it's a bunch of risk. You don't know if it's going to pay off, but I had the working prototype. I was like, this is pretty cool. And I built it to a certain point where I just had to hand it off to Moses Finley, who I found on Nostr. Shout out to Nostr for introducing me to
and
Moses.
Shout out to Gen Zs. How about that irony?
I know. Well, we need to bring Moses on for the next Gen Z episode of TFT, or excuse me, of RHR. And so Moses like saw it. He's like, yeah, I can do this. And he just did it. I think it took him like 10 or 12 hours in his spare time after work over the course of a couple of weeks. And the longest part of the process was getting it approved in the extension.
In the Chrome store.
We've been waiting for like a month for Chrome. So I've been sitting on this for a while, just playing with it, side loaded in my own Chrome browser that I use for testing. And Firefox should be ready to go soon. But yeah, no, it's been pretty cool. I think it's a powerful app. I think it has a lot of mimetic potential and in a good way for Bitcoiners to go out, take screenshots, share, and like really put it in the face of normies. Like you should price your life.
I mean, it hits hard when you're on Zillow or like in the venture world. If you see like a fundraising announcement, I saw you point out like a Stripe acquisition that cost 10,000 Bitcoin of their bridge acquisitions, like insane. It's like they should have just bought 10,000 Bitcoin. It hits you harder probably than like the smaller stuff. Like I saw some people posting like water bottle prices and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it gets you thinking in sats are the standard. And then eventually you shouldn't need the extension because the math isn't that hard, guys. And I'm saying that as someone who's not very good at math.
I'm not good at math, so it's very convenient.
I think it's awesome. I think it's absolutely hilarious that you shat all over an entire generation of individuals, and then you brought one in to clean up your vibe coded extension.
I learned. We did our Gen Z series, and I learned to embrace the good side of Gen Z. There's a lot of good in Gen Z. Moses is evidence of that. And
I saw you were briefly on BTC sessions yesterday, and I was listening, and he asked Marty, what is he most bullish on? And he's like, Generation Z. And I was like, wow, what a turn. It's like a 2-month turn. He was like the most bearish person on the generation, and now it's the single most bullish fundamental. Love to see it.
What did Mark Andreessen say? Strong opinions weakly held. That was one of mine. Other important details of opportunity costs too, since it's like a browser extension. Obviously, in this industry, there's been a lot of browser extension attacks. So Moses worked really hard, and I made it sort of a prerequisite requirement. Like, I don't want to collect any data. I don't want any permissions. I don't want to get user accounts. And so it's completely browser side. Everything happens in your browser on your device, except for you fetch the Bitcoin price from our caching server. And then we've got it completely open source MIT license, so anybody can audit the code.
I saw you switch the license after Nostr called you out. Love to see it.
Well, it was. I assumed it was MIT license.
Yeah, I figured it was just a mistake. I mean, it was an absolutely incredibly restrictive piece of shit license before, but you guys changed it really quick. I zapped and reposted. It was a good turnaround.
Thank you.
No, yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, look, it's reading all of your data, right? So people should have concern. It's like literally reading every website you view. So that's the right way to do it.
It's doing that locally. It's not sending any of that data to our servers or anything.
And you can verify. Just run like Wireshark or something. And then the other thing is try and be. It's a pretty simple extension. You shouldn't be shipping updates that often, because if people get used to it updating.
Yeah, we will be shipping pretty frequently over the next couple of weeks just to add more currencies. That should be the extent to which I think it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but we're going to try and add as many currencies as possible in the next few weeks.
And freaks in general, first of all, use the least amount of extensions possible that you can live your life with. Every extension is an additional security hole, and always disable auto updates on your extensions. Because it doesn't, like Marty doesn't have to be the malicious one, or uBlock or whatever ad block extension you're using doesn't have to be the malicious one. A malicious entity could potentially get in the middle there and ship an update.
Yeah.
So definitely disable auto updates. Do you have any, I saw some speculation there. Do you have any plans on monetizing this in any way, or?
And I mentioned this in my newsletter, and I wasn't as clear, but we do have like a link to the Bitcoin Brief newsletter. So like in the way in which we monetize it, it's like top of funnel for the newsletter, which we're selling ads to. Selling merch. We do have another way in which we might monetize it is, this seems to be catching on pretty quickly. We have like a 20% conversion rate of people who are going to the website. We might create a mobile app. There's a lot of people want a mobile app, and we might do something there that's more robust and featureful, but we have to sit down.
What would the mobile app look like? Like the original scan idea where you're like using AR to change prices?
We just launched the MIT license. I don't want to give up the mobile app alpha, but I have some ideas. I'll tell you off air.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and that's the beauty of this too.
Congrats on the launch.
Thank you. The beauty of this too is, like, as you know, we're very busy at 1031. I was able to
I think I spent a total of maybe 6 hours in the combination of vibe coding the app, and then I had a weekly call at Moses for like a month for like an hour at like 9 p.m. Central when I was still in Austin, and then we got it out there. And then shout out to Ed, Trevor, Logan. I'll give you a shout out, even you've done nothing for this app. All right, or on the marketing side, Ed and Trevor are really pushing that. So I just handed it off to those guys, and they're running with it. So it's pretty cool.
Nice.
Go download it. Opportunitycost.app if you want to check it out. Disclaimers, extensions, all that. Don't use Bitcoin wallets and extensions. Alby is okay if you're going to. Very small amount of Bitcoin. Very small amount of Bitcoin.
Should we go to the dashboard?
We should. Current price of Bitcoin is 107,880 cuck-bucks. One cuck-buck's going to get you 927 sats. We are at a $2.14 trillion market cap. We're block height 900,966. So we crossed the 900,000 thousandth block late last Friday night after we recorded. So we're officially over 900,000. There are 186 blocks between now and the next difficulty adjustment, which is looking like that's going to be late tomorrow night on the East Coast here in the United States. As of right now, it's looking like a negative 0.3% adjustment. Blocks been coming in at 10 minutes and 3 seconds on average, so relatively flat adjustment headed here. There are 12,200 transactions in Clark's mempool. That's the most I've seen in some time. If we go over to mempool.space, Wiz and the team at mempool showing, wow, Clark's mempool is bigger than mempool Space's mempool this week. Only 8,257 transactions in mempool's mempool. That's the first.
How much is in Clark's?
12,000.
Interesting.
Yep. It just dropped. Block must have literally just been mine. Now it's down to 8,300.
There you go. So Clark's was slower.
Yeah. 1 minute ago, block was mine. Yeah. Does that make sense? There are 3,900 transactions in it. The math adds up there. Okay. That is the state of the network. Things are happening.
Love it. Well, needless to say, I was definitely wrong about my timing on mempools filling up.
You've been getting called out.
Got that one wrong, freaks.
Yeah,
I'm the first one to admit it.
Yeah, this is a subject many people
can't get all the calls right.
Can't, not all the time. Always. Eventually, always. Still believe that.
It's impossible to bet against that, but
yeah, big news, or not big news, I guess the development. Obviously, the controversy around op return limits and
the biggest news of the week, Marty.
I know, biggest news of the week about whether or not they will. It's been ongoing debate for a few months now. A bunch of Bitcoin Core developers wrote a letter this week basically saying that they're going to go forward with raising the limit in, I believe, the next major release this fall.
Yeah, so this is you're going to read the whole letter?
No, I was saying, is there any section you think I should be reading? They're basically justifying what they've been explaining for the last couple of months, which is, hey, miners are mining this block. Our job as protocol developers trying to create the best software for people running our nodes or nodes using our software is we want to make sure that everybody's mempool is seeing every transaction. And so they're sticking to that, and they're going to merge op return with no carrier limit later this fall.
And they're going to leave in the ability to configure, I believe.
Yes.
So this is for op return data, which has historically been limited to, I believe, 84 bytes. This is for policy, actual relay policy. So what transactions your node is relaying to the rest of the network in mempools before things get mined. Some miners and some individuals have been running basically separate relays, and like transactions have been submitted directly to large miners for them to mine these non-standard transactions, even without this change. And I think Peter Todd maintains something called Libre Relay, which a bunch of individuals are running that also relays it. So in practice, as long as this limit's in place, your node wouldn't see those non-standard transactions until they're mined. And then at the point that they're mined, your node would then have to validate the transactions and obviously still keep the data that could then later be pruned because it's op return data. The whole point of op return is that it's prunable data that you don't have to keep forever if you don't want to. So a bunch of controversy happened because of this change. There was a bunch of GitHub moderation issues. I think both sides handled this pretty poorly. A lot of people have moved to the extremes. There are people that are claiming that if you run Bitcoin Core, you're threatening their family. Bitcoin Core maintainers haven't backed down and are pushing through the change anyway, even though it's a weird hill for them to die on. And so tempers are high and people are screaming about this on both sides. And it's, I mean, from my perspective, it's a bit frustrating to see. I mean, once again, I think you could leave it unchanged and there would be very few negative effects. And I think if you remove it, there's, in practice, probably not that many negative effects either. Maybe some of these non-standard transactions are a bit cheaper to relay and mine. They are paying more in fees because filters do lead to that, right? You do end up paying a bit more, and we've seen that in practice. But I think the real takeaway here is twofold. I think the takeaway is, first of all, this is a relatively cheap wake-up call to people that it's better if node operators have more options. I think Bitcoin has grown up as a project, and as a result, there's way more at stake. And it's empowering to node operators to be able to choose how they want to deal with policy issues. And so I think that definitely should be the case. And I think the positive side of this is that it will likely be the case going forward more so. The second piece is there's a defund all Bitcoin developers movement brewing, which I've been the target of because of OpenSats, which reminds me of poor people trying to defund the police. It feels very similar to that, and I think it's counterintuitive. Obviously, it's not an exact analogy.
It's a great analogy. It's a good one. It's a good one.
And I think people will regret that if it happens in practice, but fortunately, it will not actually happen in practice. I think people don't realize that the reason OpenSats exists and the reason HRF Dev Fund exists is because this problem was diagnosed 5 years ago, which is that if you don't have transparent, relatively neutral organizations providing an ethical path of funding for key developers, they will seek out funding elsewhere and there will be corporate capture. And it's a very real concern. And so the way you solve that is not by attempting to defund when you're actually not going to be successful at defunding. It's giving more paths to funding and more competition in the funding environment. So what I would like to see, and this is something that we've been heavily focused on OpenSats, is, and we have a blog post on it, is 1,000 flowers blooming here. Like if you think OpenSats isn't doing a good job, or HRF isn't doing a good job, or Chaincode or Brink isn't doing a good job, then you should try and solve this problem or mitigate this problem and add another option for people to get funding, for developers to get funding. Otherwise, they can be bought incredibly cheaply by any corporate interest out there. So those are my thoughts on the matter. And the last piece, is a lot of the people that claim that I lied about Saylor discouraging people from funding developers now claim Saylor was right, and it can't be both. Either I was telling the truth and you agree with his opinion and he was right, or I was lying and he never did that in the first place. But he definitely discouraged people from funding developers. And I know my posts were in all caps, so people took them very aggressively, but I was posting everything in all caps back then. But if you read back, like, I was very deliberate not to cast judgment. What I wanted was a closed discussion to be moved into the open. In general, almost all things considered, in every aspect, more open discussion is strictly better. You don't want sensitive topics happening behind closed doors. You want to add light. Light is the true disinfectant. So I'm glad we're having this conversation today, and we wouldn't be having this conversation if there wasn't avenues for a proper open discussion.
Yeah. I mean, we discussed this a few weeks ago when Parker came in. I was running the live desk at Bitcoin Plus for 2 days. We did 5 hours of streaming. This was a heavy topic there, as I think that was the peak of the fervor around this particular topic was at that conference. And so I've definitely had my fair share of seeing both sides. And I think my reaction is similar to yours, like just not the best approach by either side. And I can totally see Bitcoin Core side where it's like, hey, we're technical devs that really care about the performance of the software, and they view their job as to if these transactions are happening in the node software that we're providing isn't picking them up. We should do what we can to make sure that's happening. You can see that I'm not a particular fan. I've been very public about this since ordinals and inscriptions launched. I don't think they're worth putting on the Bitcoin blockchain, but I've also said it's tough luck for us because it is possible people are doing it, and that is a product of just the way Bitcoin development went with SegWit and Taproot. And I think we should be highly cognizant of those sort of derivative effects that were not very clear when we were talking about SegWit and Taproot activation. And then similarly, like, the mempools are empty. Like, I don't understand like why there's an urgency to do this right now. Like, it's not like we have full mempools and it's becoming a massive problem at the moment. To increase the data limit size. If I were to say anything to the core developers, is like, I don't know if it was rush, but like, I don't think there was a need to rush. Obviously, they talked to the Citria team, and that was part of the reason they think more companies and projects like Citria are going to come to market. And even though Citria probably isn't going to take advantage of this increased limit just because of how they designed their system already, the idea is that anybody who wants to do something similar to Citria will have the opportunity to do it in a less abusive way to the chain. But then similarly on the other side, it's like this whole fire the devs, run knots, which is maintained by Luke and hopefully a few others now at the very least. I don't think that's wise either. But also you need a market reaction to enable people to express their displeasure with something happening in Bitcoin. In the long term, I think it's going to be I think JPEGs and the like will get priced out.
It's weird because I'm one of those like Bitcoin is money. Like it really rubs me the wrong way when people put JPEGs in the blockchain. And I do think it should, like, people using Bitcoin on chain should be doing that for economic activity. And then you get into the whole subjective nature of what is economic activity, what is true usage. But my subjective view is it should be for economic activity, people making transactions to facilitate trade in the real world. But then, like, I'm a fan of, there's like, again, a spectrum and subjectivity. Like, I'm a fan of simple proof, but I like the way they implement arbitrary hash data into the blockchain using open timestamps. So it is weird, but I think the last thing I'll say is I do think people should take a little step back and stop like trying to like dissuade core developers and calling. I mean, somebody sent a tweet out about like Chaincode's office being on fire or something like that, or like some like subliminal threat. Like, I think that certainly needs to stop, and cooler heads need to prevail. And I think the work that core developers do, even though I may not agree with their approach to this particular issue, I think it's extremely important, extremely undervalued and underappreciated by Bitcoiners all over the world. And my biggest worry is that this, I don't want to call it benign, but I don't think it, like you said, luckily we're fighting over this. Like, if the stupid fight over op return dissuades some extremely smart developers from continuing to review and maintain the Bitcoin core code base, that would be extremely disheartening.
I guess this guy is in our Twitch chat because I don't think we're on YouTube yet, because YouTube's still down. But he's saying money is Bitcoin's dominant strategy. It is not for arbitrary data. You guys are equivocating, and it's ridiculous. I mean, I agree with your first statement.
Yeah.
If there's a technical solution to stop shitcoining on Bitcoin, I'm all for it. Someone should propose it. And I also will reiterate that I fully appreciate Luke, Bitcoin Mechanic, and the rest of the Ocean team. I think it's the best pool in the business. I think miners should consider using it. And I told Luke many times that OpenSats is ready and able to fund more NOTS contributors. But right now, no, we haven't gotten any additional NOTS contributors, any NOTS applications whatsoever to OpenSats. The last time I checked, which was yesterday. So consider contributing to NOTS. Like, consider making it a project that actually has more review than mostly Luke and Chris. Like, have more people review and contribute to that project. And if you can come up with a technical solution to stop this shit from going on chain, please propose it and put it forward. But my understanding right now is there isn't one. And I am frustrated with Bitcoin Core contributors for pushing through this change anyway, because it really does not make a substantial effect for anything that they're saying it does, which is helping small miners, helping node propagate, block propagation stuff. It's mostly theoretical stuff that actually in practice doesn't really change much. And they're like doing this thing where they dig their heels into the ground because they don't want to like bend the knee to the mob or apologize. Like, one of the first things Marty told me was when I first met him, he was like, never apologize. And they're doing that thing right now. But at the same time, like, when people just talk about this stuff in a reasonable, sane fashion, don't hit me with all your fucking extremism. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, give us something to actually advocate for.
Yeah. To your point about advocating for something that would take all this out of Bitcoin, there actually is. I think it's highly theoretical right now, and it's interesting too for anybody interested in the quantum resistant conversation. At BitDevs in Austin last month, we covered this. Logan, pull it up. Ethan Haleman
had an interesting post on the Bitcoin Dev mailing list in April, and it's basically a way to create post-quantum signatures and also take out JPEG at the same time. But from what I understand, this actually would make the signatures smaller too. I think it's very high level, theoretical, and there are some rough edges to it. And I'm not going to pretend to be able to explain the cryptography or the data usage involved with that cryptography, but we will link to this in the show notes. I think it's a very interesting read for everybody. And apparently it does solve the JPEG spam problem as well.
Supposedly Google Cloud is down right now, and that's why everything's broken.
I imagine this is Google Cloud, what we're sharing right now.
Yeah, but I mean, they have a bunch of different servers. I just checked Down Detector. Sebastian's in the comics is saying it. Well, it's cool that Zapstream doesn't use Google Cloud. Shout out Kieran. Yeah, look, I just... The entire internet is down right now. Well, that'll stop us from talking about the Epstein list.
I'm looking on Twitter. Is Twitter doesn't seem to be down, but I don't see anybody talking about it, which is interesting.
Here, pull this up.
Oh yeah, Masari. We're seeing degraded experience due to broader Google service issues impacting parts of Masari. We're monitoring the issue closely. Is it happening? Are we getting cyber attacked by Iran?
What? I mean, it'd be kind of cool if we were live during it.
Yeah.
The true
what if we're the only live show during this, and like for some reason, the world comes to us
just because of Zapstream? It's just all Kieran's server in his fucking garage.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm not trying. Look, that's the thing. Is like I agree with a lot of you guys. It's just you're arguing an ideology, and you're not actually arguing on something substantive that we can use. You're welcome to. Anyone is welcome to not update to V30. I don't plan on doing it. I usually don't update that quickly anyway. Anyone is welcome to run knots. I don't encourage people to run knots right now until we have more review and contributors there, but I would happily support that and have more people doing that. I think it's a good learning lesson for people it's controversial, and I know you're going to fucking hate me for saying it for a relatively low stakes reason. Like, this is not soft fork related. This is not consensus related. So it's a really good learning time for people to realize that ultimately the biggest check we have on developers that are working on the protocol is that there are no auto updates and we don't have to run what they come up with. And that we can modify it at will because it's proper false software. And on the 1031 side, I will just loud and clear say that we do not fund any projects that rely on spam or benefit from spam. We do not fund any projects that want a soft fork to happen or need a soft fork to happen. And we actually do quite the opposite. We fund both mempool.space and Start9, which are open source. You can run yourself without paying either company. You can modify their code. You can do whatever the hell you want with it. And right now, Start9 is the best way to run a Knots node or Bitcoin Core node of whatever version you want. And you can do that all on your own by flashing the open source code onto any computer. And we're their largest investor. So on the 1031 side, we're doing the exact opposite. And at the end of the day, I think we all care and rely on Bitcoin. And I would like this project to not get fucked up. There's a lot at stake here. So those are my full notes. The next topic I have on the list is a link to Luke's website showing the growth in Knots nodes. I think it's up to 8,900 nodes right now. If you want to pull that up, if you want to pull that up. What percentage is it?
Looks like Pac-Man. Logan,
it's like almost 10%.
Knots is 8.59%.
8.59%. And I got attacked for bringing this up last time, and it feels like fucking Bcash all over again, even though that was fucking 8 years ago. But I will remind people that node count is a relatively easy number to fake, with the caveat that Luke says that he filters out AWS nodes. So this does not include AWS nodes. I don't know if he filters out other VPSs. I don't know if he filters out identical IP addresses. But the whole point is you can spin up a lot of nodes for relatively cheaply. And this is why proof of work exists. And ultimately, what check does a node have? A node has the check of how you use it, how you interact with the network, how you validate transactions, being able to interact with the network in a trust minimized way. And I like the pissing contest about like node counts and up and down and stuff. You can take some directional information from it, but like don't get obsessed with it because it could be relatively easily faked.
Beware, freaks. Beware. Bitcoin bomb battle. You're going to love the next topic, which is the fact that another group of developers wrote a letter pushing for the integration of op CTV and op check sig from Stack. So
James Cloudflare is down too.
Yeah. Yeah. Where is this note? So, I mean, in the same vein, so while all this is going on, many people have been saying it's a shame that this op return. Many have been saying that it's a shame that this op return flare up happened because many people in the Bitcoin developer space were highly encouraged by the progression of conversations around covenants, particularly with op CTV. And so there is a group of technical developers that co-signed a letter saying that they would like Bitcoin Core to seriously review the pull request and sort of proposals put forth for op CTV and check sig from Stack. Argument being that covenants would enable really good security features for exchanges and users by creating unique spending conditions that make it harder to steal Bitcoin. Also, op check sig from Stack is being marketed as something that would provide benefits for the Lightning Network and creating channels on the Lightning Network with LN symmetry. Or excuse me, that CTV would implement LN symmetry, check sig from Stack. It can be combined with CTV to create LN symmetry, which is something that's been wanted by Lightning developers. I had a conversation with Matt Corallo on Monday. He seemed to think that the benefits of these two for the Lightning Network specifically, which is something that he's working on, are marginal, definitely beneficial, but nothing that's like, oh my gosh, we need this now. In Bitcoin Bombadil, however you pronounce your name, he said in the comments, the longer we wait to activate any BIP, the more valuable the BIP could potentially be as an option if it becomes blatantly obvious that it's no downside, only upside to the upgrade. That's a big question. CTV has been out there for, I believe, 7 years now. There's been a 5 Bitcoin bounty for anybody out there who can find bugs or find ways to break Bitcoin using CTV. Hasn't been claimed yet. I believe CTV has been live on Liquid for a bit, if I recall correctly. And so, yeah, I guess that's a question. After that long discussion about op return, there are a group of developers who want 2 more opcodes: check type plate verify and check sig from Stack. So, are covenants worth it? Are there? And as we just gave that disclaimer to 1031 itself, doesn't invest in companies that need soft forks. There are some members of the 1031 portfolio family that have signed the letter, but I don't think the success that comes.
Rob Hamilton, is MBK in there?
MBK's in there. Mononaut.
Is mempool. Rob Hamilton is Anchor Watch. He's there, right?
Yep. Average Gary.
Well, obviously, like we're not gonna tell our founders what to do and what not to do. We never have, never will.
Buck Purley's on the list,
but none of their businesses rely on it.
No,
which is good because it's never going to happen.
You think it's never going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason for this flare up on the policy issues was a preemptive soft fork flare up. Like I think they were waiting for the soft fork fight and they got impatient. And so they just went after the policy thing and they just said, hold my beer, Leroy Jenkins. And they just went off on the policy thing. But and I mean, to be fair, Taproot went through way quicker than I expected. I thought that was going to be contentious. And I lost a bet. I had to give 1 million sats to open source devs because Marty was right on that one. Which was a good cause. But I just think it's incredibly unlikely. I think if a soft fork was to get pushed through, we've never really seen a contentious soft fork because you could say that SegWit was a contentious soft fork, but all the contentious people had already hard forked to Bcash, so it wasn't really a contentious soft fork within the actual node running community and like stakeholder community of Bitcoin. Stakeholder by people that are invested and care about Bitcoin. But if you try and push through a soft fork in a contentious environment that doesn't actually have consensus, which is very hard to measure objectively ahead of time, because once again, node counts are easy to fake. The result is a chain split after the fact, which kind of has the same characteristics of a hard fork. So did we lose Marty? Did he go down with Google? Cloudflare's down, Google's down. I have to say that, credit where credit's due. It's impressive that X is still up, given everything, so much of the internet is down. But I will say that also Nostr and Bitcoin were designed for this environment. The whole internet is reliant on massive, vulnerable, centralized infrastructure. While Bitcoin is incredibly robust, and Nostr is also very robust, less so robust than Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, we just need to sign JSON messages between each other. So we could actually do that via carrier pigeon if we wanted to. It just wouldn't scale that well. I don't know where Marty went, but I'm still talking. So I think, I just think it's very unlikely that we see any even relatively controversial soft fork happen. Well, and I hate to be that guy for the people that really want to see those things happen. But I'm just calling it as I see it. Like I also am not giving my judgment here, which is kind of funny because I get hit from both sides. I get hit from the side of people that are like, "Oh, Odell's trying to influence Bitcoin. He wants influence." Blah blah blah. The best part is like when they're like, "Oh, he deleted his Twitter account of 250,000 people because he wants influence," which is just fucking retarded. But I'm actually trying to do the opposite, which is like don't expect me to like pass judgment on super controversial things. Like I'd rather be a more neutral party unless I absolutely have to. So I'm trying to practice what I preach there. So I'm not even passing judgment on the merits of these soft forks. I just don't think they're going to happen.
I wouldn't be surprised if these ones happen.
I think I already have a bet with Rob Hamilton on this one.
Like Bombadil said, I think if these do happen, considering what you just said, like they're very controversial. I think they will only happen if it becomes very clear that they're needed. And I do think there could be things, whether if ARC gets widespread adoption and proves to be particularly useful, and people would like to see those systems scale in a way that enables people to unilaterally exit in a timely manner and to be able to scale to a certain amount of users. And covenants certainly help with that. I believe CTV is the best covenant proposal that the ARC people
are empty.
I know they're empty. I'm saying down the line, like if you have them in the back pocket and you need them and they prove rather beneficial, then yeah, I think it's gonna be a long slog for these. Off the bat, theoretically, I recorded with James last month before he and the community of developers that signed the letter released the letter, and I think it's also important to highlight like these changes are nowhere near the magnitude of SegWit and Taproot. For CTV, I believe it's like 200 lines of code, where Taproot and SegWit were thousands, and not that changes anything. Like Bombadil's saying, what are the unforeseen consequences? And that's a hard thing in Bitcoin. And I think I learned this after Taproot is like, I don't think we're technically competent enough to discern what the unforeseen consequences of adding op returns or soft forking new address structures and fixing the witness discount and all of that, or changing the witness discount. I don't think we are technically competent enough to understand the full ramifications and knock-on effects of these things, which makes things even weirder, because like, how do you decide when you're comfortable with the trade-offs if you can never truly understand them fully because you don't understand the cryptography and you can't run the code yourself or audit the code yourself? Interesting times.
I can't believe we're online while like 80% of the internet is down right now. It's pretty cool. I guess also shout out to Restream.
Shout out to Restream. Shout out to Stream. Shout out to X.
By the way, mempool.space doesn't get enough credit. That Wiz basically, like, mempool.space I don't know if has ever gone down, because he is like the self-hoster to the extreme. He's got servers, self-hosted servers on like 5 different continents with like automatic load balancing and shit. Maybe 4 continents. Maybe I overstated it.
It's been 26 minutes since the last Bitcoin blocks was mined. Is Bitcoin down? I guess
no. Bitcoin is clearly not down. Stop the fake news. Yeah, I don't know. I just Rob has to pay me 25K sats when it's not activated by the end of the year. I gave him 4-to-1 odds. So I owe him 100K sats.
The end of this year, Rob? He thought by the end of this year?
Yeah.
You're fucking crazy.
Well, I caught him he was being bombastic. You know, I did a classic. Oh, really? If you actually believe that, let's bet on it. And then he asked for 4-to-1 odds, which is always the telltale sign that they're like, oh shit, why did I say it? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, there's the self-custody argument, I think, could be the strongest argument for it, but it's a weak argument right now, because that's not the issue with self-custody. Like, the reason people aren't self-custodying Bitcoin has nothing to do with technical limitations of Bitcoin and have everything to do with the siren song of Bitcoin stocks. And if they get onboarded, if a new person that's Bitcoin curious goes on X, like, they're like loading up their Charles Schwab account with Bitcoin stocks, and they're not self-custodying Bitcoin. And that's the reality of the situation. And it's another case of getting into technical debates that are not actually based in like the reality of where we are today. And I would say like it's like similar with the policy stuff. It's like I could see the technical arguments for wanting to loosen standardness rules because large miners are already mining those transactions. But in practice, like it's not really making that much of a difference for mining competitiveness. So here we are. And then meanwhile, I don't know. It's, I guess this is what we signed up for, but there's a lot of vibes here that feel like 2017.
Agreed with everything there. As always, we'll keep you freaks abreast as things evolve or devolve, depending on how people decide to react here. But I think stay tuned. We'll see. On to what we really came here to talk about. Logan, pull up the Bloomberg clip and play it. Michael Saylor.
No, there's just full disclosure. There's going to be 3 clips that I want us to play in a row here. So Marty and I can just take a little break and listen to these 3 clips. Okay,
how do you expect the asset to continue a price increase at these levels that we've seen? I mean, can it keep that up over the next 5 years, over the next 10 years? And at what point do we see, winter coming again? Because that's been a permanent fixture of this asset class, right? It's gone from 0 or 1,000 to 20, and then back down to 3 or 4, and then up to 50, and then back down to 15, and now up to 110. Like, when does it drop again?
Winter's not coming back. We're past that. We're past that phase. If Bitcoin's not going to 0, it's going to $1 million. And you have all the evidence you need to determine that, right? The President of the United States has determined he supports Bitcoin. The cabinet supports Bitcoin. Scott Bessent supports Bitcoin. Paul Atkins has shown himself to be an enthusiastic believer of Bitcoin and digital assets. Ken Taz at CFTC feels the same way. The banks are going to custody Bitcoin. Bitcoin has gotten through its riskiest period. The accounting has been corrected. There's now only 450 Bitcoin a day available for sale by natural sellers. That's the miners. At this level, that works out to about $50 million of Bitcoin available for sale every day. If that $50 million is bought, then the price has got to move up to find any seller that's price sensitive. Now, if you do the math, you'll actually see the Bitcoin treasury companies by themselves are buying the entire natural supply.
Yeah.
BlackRock and the ETFs are buying another measure of that. And we've got nation state actors coming into the space. So I think when Bitcoin rallies, if it surges to 500,000 or $1 million, then maybe we could talk about it crashing down by $200,000 a coin. But at the current price levels, it only takes $50 million to turn the entire drive shaft of the crypto economy one turn. And you've got the Trump media organization announcing $2.5 billion. You've got GameStop announcing $500 million. You've got my company that's raising billions and billions of dollars. So the writing is on the wall. Bitcoin's moving higher.
How do you?
Okay, so let's discuss this clip first, and then we'll move on to the next 2 clips. What are your thoughts, Marty?
Very compelling argument, Mr. Saylor.
Did he just argued for a Supercycle, right?
He did. I'm sure you've seen this chart, but Logan, pull this up.
I was a little bit confused by his wording, though, because he says that if Bitcoin goes up to $1 million, it could crash. I thought he said crash to 200K per coin. But I guess what he meant or what he said was it could crash 200K per coin. Which is completely different. It's like 20% decrease would be a Supercycle claim. 80% decrease would be 200K. So I'm not sure if it was one or the other there. I'm like, if I had to bet on it, after re-listening to that clip like 3 or 4 times, I think he meant from $1 million to 800K. Yeah. And not $1 million to 200K. But when I first listened to it, I thought it was hilarious. It's like no winters until we hit $1 million. Then there's going to be a winter.
then we're going to drop 80% like we always have.
No, yeah, you pulled up the chart.
I'm sure you've seen this chart, and like it does look interesting. Again, we're not TA experts here either. Not particularly sure whether TA actually works, but the cycle, at least the way it's just like the price movement here is definitely different than the last cycles, which have included insane retail FOMO.
But all the cycles are different. Like no cycle is exactly the same.
No cycle is exactly the same. But Logan, pull up the next chart. Which I should be in the chat now. Like this is what a super cycle would look like according to Death Cab to QE. Excuse me. Go red line. Zoom in on the top number. I think that has us going to like $6 million. Yeah, I don't know. It could be. It definitely the conditions are different. The conditions are different in the sense that we do have all these buyers. Like I think the one question on everybody's mind.
Oh my God.
And what everybody's thinking about is like how many of these treasury companies or governments or hedge funds, whatever it may be, just get completely over their skis and get drunk on leverage and completely blow up. That's a question. But then the other question is if some of them do get over their skis, get engage in a ton of leverage and blow up, like is there enough external demand outside of those people that get blown up to soak up the supply that would come to market? Okay. I don't know.
So a couple of things here. First of all, I mean, people think I hate Saylor. I don't hate Saylor. I appreciate Saylor's contributions to the space. Me and him have a very good relationship. So don't put words in my mouth for this conversation, because I always feel sensitive talking about it ever since I brought up the open source funding disagreements. Bring up that TA chart again.
The second one?
The first one. The second one is just pure gibberish. At least the first one's actually showing what has happened in the past. Like no one can predict the future, but we can look at what happened in the past, right? And yes, if you see a different type of structure here, I think Dre on Nostr said, he was like, yeah, no, I said all cycles are different. They're not exactly the same. And he's like, yeah, but the other ones are siblings. This one's a second cousin, which I thought was a good analogy. But there's two things that are going on here that are different from where we were. I guess there's three things that are different from where we were in past cycles. First of all, one thing that's different with every subsequent cycle is that valuation is higher, more money is held in the system, more wealth is held in the system. There's more users, there's more adoption, right? Obviously. The second piece is this is the first cycle that we've had in a high interest rate environment, in a non-easy money environment. So the structure of that could change substantially if rates are cut, and if money starts sloshing around the system in a big way. Maybe this is just like the early front piece of this cycle. The last piece is now we have the Bitcoin treasury companies, right? We have these proxy Bitcoin exposure vehicles that are held by people. They're buying the stonks, right? They're buying Metaplanet, they're buying MSTR, they're buying whatever. And it makes sense to me that if they're buying that instead of buying spot Bitcoin, if most of the new buying is coming in through those types of vehicles, it adds a delay function, right? You buy the stock, it increases in capitalization, then they go out in the simplest terms, and then they go out and buy the Bitcoin, right? Or with what MSTR is doing now is like, he goes to ChatGPT, he designs a new preferred stock offering, he releases it 2 months later, then the market starts buying them, then he buys Bitcoin, right? And so it adds a delay function to actually removing Bitcoin from spot. The last piece is obviously a lot of a lot of these companies don't have proof of reserves. They're not taking self-custody. So there's a element of trust there there's not people just like taking self-custody off the markets, right? And so you have, also this type of situation with like hedging with futures and all this different shenanigans that are happening that kind of like slow that upward movement. So the way I'm looking at it right now, and once again, no one sees the future. And I think the tried and true method is to stay humble, stack sats. And it's crazy that it's 2025, but the alpha is to just stack sats relentlessly to cold storage and hold the keys yourself and not trust anybody, is that this elongates the bull and will elongate the subsequent bear cycle if that happens. And what I expect to happen is we are going to see degeneracy on a level that we've never seen before. And we're going to see massive risk taking around the top. And what's going to happen is we're going to have to deal with a long unwind of various Bitcoin vehicles and Bitcoin proxy exposure stocks and shit as they're unwinding. And maybe the big dogs will be more responsible about it. Like, this is not me saying MSTR is going to fail. But by the time we hit the top, there's going to be like banana companies that are stacking Bitcoin on their treasuries and completely failed businesses that are doing it. I mean, I saw John Arnold from our team posted on Nostr today that a coffee chain in Europe made headlines for buying one whole Bitcoin, and they pivoted into Bitcoin treasury strategy. So you have all these companies doing this shit. It's going to get frothy. There's going to be derivatives and all this other intertangled shit. And at the same time, the macro environment is the worst it's been in our lives, like in terms of the just shaky foundations everywhere. So you have a macro crisis mixed into it. And not only do I expect there to be pain, I expect it to be like, in terms of measurement, in terms of like dollar amount and people amount, like the most pain we've seen out of all of the cycles, just because we're operating at a scale higher than we've ever operated at before. And I think it's the easy thing is to say like, oh, like you could just buy this thing and just never worry about it. And it'll just go up forever, which I directionally actually do agree with that. I just think there's going to be valleys in between. I think there's going to be pain in between, and you have to be able to survive that pain and not be over leveraged and destroyed when it happens. And that's why the stay humble part is important.
Yeah. Look, and pull up the latest clip I put in there. I mean, David Bailey, friend of the show. I mean, he's out there openly marketing this, so we should play it to see how he's viewing this treasury play.
UTXO was the 5th best performing hedge fund in the world last year, and I think we're probably the number 1 best performing hedge fund in the world this year. We raised about $30 million total for UTXO management. I don't know how much we've paid out, like a lot, way more than we've raised. And we're sitting on probably about $500 million at AUM right now. It's going up pretty quickly. And yeah, like we've been doing these Bitcoin treasury plays, and we've done enough of them where we were like, wow, this is the new meta. This is like the ultimate irony here is like tokens were always securities. Just no one wanted to call them that, but they were always securities. Like every token you bought it to make money. And now instead of like, buying tokens and pretending they're not securities, we're just like buying securities and pretending they're tokens. And, now like the only thing in crypto that ever had product market fit was like 100x gains. And now 100x gains have come to traditional securities. And so now like the game has changed, and it's like, guess what? There's like way more money in like the capital markets than there is in like the crypto markets, like way more money.
So UTXO.
And we're just getting started. Like the degeneracy hasn't even really begun.
Yeah, and I guess it is unnerving.
I will say that. Yeah, go on.
So this is something I've been trying to think through, and I don't know. Obviously, the corporate treasury play is orders of magnitude beyond what's happening in private markets, but that is another trend to take into consideration. Like companies that are actually providing goods and services, getting revenue and cash flow, funneling profits in the Bitcoin. It's just Bitcoin companies. It's very profitable. Family-owned businesses, small businesses, medium-sized businesses that are in the private markets. River's been talking about it. Strike's been talking about it. Unchained has a lot of businesses that have accounts there. This is
our
a trend.
portfolio is full of them. Profitable businesses that are just stacking Bitcoin.
Yeah. And like, that's another thing I wonder, like, even if these things blow up, or inevitably when some of them do blow up, fantastically, excuse me. I haven't slept that much again this week. Is there enough like latent demand from all the other sort of demand drivers, particularly in the private market? Like, especially when, let's say in 2026, when Square launches like Bitcoin payments and their terminals, and the merchants become more attuned to it, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to keep 20% of this, 30% of my revenue in Bitcoin. Like, how much buying power does that bring to market? I don't know. It's just something I'm thinking through.
Look, it's the most frustrating thing to argue against, because I'm one of the most bullish people in the world, and my family's entire future is reliant on Bitcoin. Like, I'm as all in as you can fucking get. But the argument that is basically being made, if you think there's going to be no significant downturns, is that this will be the first cycle in Bitcoin history, and the first time in Bitcoin history that people won't be retardedly degenerate. And I think that's a pretty extraordinary claim to make. I think it's a very easy claim to like get people all riled up in a bowl. But do people just forget how quickly sentiment turns as things turn to the negative? Like, the profitable business angle is true. The profitable individuals is true, right? An individual that has more cash flow than expenses, just they spend less than they earn and they stack. That's the floor. It's 100% the floor. It's the real floor. That floor could be lower than a lot of people expect after a 10, 15, 20x, right? I don't think it's going to happen now. I don't think we'd like fall from 110K 80%. It happens after you have irrational exuberance where it just gets fucking frothy. And Bitcoin doesn't have circuit breakers. We run 24/7, and it's mixed in with Wall Street that barely ever trades. It's like all they do is circuit breakers and closed hours, like just never fucking trading. It's going to be fucking ridiculous. The downturn is going to be the most panic-induced thing fucking ever. It's going to be the most wild RHRs ever. And the people that are staying humble and stacking sats through them will be in the best situation possible. The time to warn people and get people prepared for that is today. It's not after it starts happening, because you're already over-leveraged and fucked. Now, I want to pull up. Oh, by the way, thank you, Paulie, for zapping 21,000 sats. We appreciate you in the Nostr live chat. First 21,000. Oh, no, there's another one, too. Did McCoy zap us? Where did he zap? Did I not? Oh, stay humble, stack sats from McCoy. Thank you, McCoy. Marty, you don't have to shame Marty about zaps. I'm no longer shaming Marty about zaps. He's got to get his reply count on Nostr up.
I'll reply.
He's like under 400. Pull up this tweet from Hunter Horsley, and I just want to say, the Bitwise guys have been a pleasure to work with. I appreciate them supporting OpenSats and being the only ETF that provides proof of reserves. But Marty, can you read? This is the CEO of Bitwise. Can you read his tweet?
I think once Bitcoin breaks through, for example, 130 to 150,000, no one is going to sell their Bitcoin. Right now at 100,000, it seems individuals who hold a lot of Bitcoin that was bought a long time ago at very low prices are selling some. That said, once Bitcoin breaks new levels, this will peter off. And from there on, when people need liquidity, they're going to borrow from an ever-growing set of lenders, all of which will further propel price. There's simply not going to be enough Bitcoin.
And we're barely at the beginning. And this commentary is I don't know. And to me, this is always the warning sign commentary.
Yeah, I mean,
no one's going to sell. Everyone's going to lever up, and there won't be any negative effects of all that leverage in the system.
Yeah, and we talked about this over the last 2 weeks with Strike launching their lending product. Last week at Bitcoin John here in Philly, was one of the questions. And for anybody new, maybe doesn't understand this, this is not financial advice, not a financial advisor, but one of the questions asked at the John, and this gentleman, incredibly nice, but it like scared me a little bit because it wasn't intuitive to him. He was like, when should I take out a loan? When the price is higher, when the price is low? And I had to be like, the best time to take out a loan is when it's low. And like we said last week, if you're going to engage in Bitcoin lending products, make it a small percentage of your stack. It's not ideal to take it out. It's literally the worst time to take it out at the peak of a bull market. So be wary of that if the price drifts higher. And if you
don't know when the peak is, that's the problem.
Yeah. If we do have a blow off top, like you should probably, if you're thinking about taking out a loan, you should probably mentally prepare. If it goes over X price, like I'm not taking out a loan because I'm not comfortable taking.
Well, that's the way. Like if you keep it to 5-10% of the stack, like you can withstand a 90% drawdown. So if you are in the peak, you should still be hopefully good. But yes, it's very dangerous.
Yeah. Beware. All right. Supercycle. Who knows?
No.
A lot of people calling for it.
The worst part about this whole thing, and like I'm tempted to just lean into it and just be like, whatever, I'm pro Supercycle. I'm too old for this shit. But the worst part about this whole thing is as it happens, the definitions are going to keep changing of like what makes it a Supercycle. It's just going to there's going to be a moving goalpost the entire time. Like what was the guy with his fucking formula last time? Stock to flow. It's just going to be a moving goalpost formula bullshit. Plan B. Yeah. So like I can't, and like, if you want to argue semantics, you could argue that Bitcoin throughout its entire existence has been in one big super cycle. And I would actually agree with that with corrections in the middle. But ultimately, if you held Bitcoin from the very beginning, you're doing quite well. You just had to make sure you didn't get wrecked in between. If you were cash flow positive in the beginning and you just bought Bitcoin and just kept stacking Bitcoin, you're fucking crushing it. There were no bear markets. They were just quote unquote minor corrections. And then you're arguing semantics about what a minor correction is and what a bear market is.
Well, we're not done this topic yet because we have 2 more videos to watch. So
sorry. Well, these are all good. These are great. Okay, so this is wait, pause it. Let me just do the setup. There's a well-known trader, Jim Chanos, who is Chanos,
I believe.
Chanos, who is he's shorting Saylor stock, but he's going long Bitcoin. So he thinks the 2x premium is too much, and Saylor's responding to it here. Okay, play.
From Jim Chanos, of course, he's a legendary short seller. He came out recently and said, basically, buy Bitcoin, short strategy shares. And just to set the scene here, I'm curious what you make of that.
I don't think he understands what our business model is. We're actually the largest issuer of Bitcoin-backed credit instruments in the world. So last week, we just raised $1 billion by selling a preferred stock, non-cumulative, called Stride. That means we basically borrowed money that we never have to pay back, that we pay a dividend on, but we could suspend the dividend if we needed to. So Jim has been thinking that we somehow needed to sell the equity. We now are in a situation where we have Strike, Stride, and Strife, 3 publicly floating preferred stocks that are not dilutive to the equity. They all meet a different market requirement.
Right.
That $110 million of Bitcoin we bought last week, that was acquired without issuing any common stock. So what's going on here is that we're using our $60 billion of Bitcoin collateral to issue credit instruments. They never come due. There's no liquidation risk. There's not even an interest rate risk, right? It's a non-cumulative preferred, and we could suspend the dividends.
Right.
So at the end of the day, if he's lucky enough to short the stock below 1 times NAV, we're going to issue the preferreds, buy back the stock, and make money for our shareholders. If the stock trades at a weak premium, we're just going to sell the preferreds. And if the stock rallies up, he's going to get liquidated and wiped out.
Well, let's talk about that premium, because that is the heart of his short call on strategy, as you point out here. So he said recently on a podcast that shareholders are paying around $220,000 for Bitcoin that trades at $110,000, but the company is doing everything it can to close that spread, which is great. There's a catalyst. So he's referring to the fact that you are selling your own shares and buying Bitcoin. But when it comes to the premium that strategy shares enjoy over the price of Bitcoin itself, do you think that that's sustainable? The fact that, like he points out, that basically the value of your company is trading at twice that of Bitcoin itself?
What he still doesn't understand is we're not a holding company or a closed-end trust. We're an operating company. So when we issue, trust can't leverage the Bitcoin. They can't issue preferred shares. They can't issue permanent shares of equity at a premium. We can. Our company's generated a BTC dollar gain equal to about $8.4 billion in the first 2 quarters of this year. That's the equivalent of earnings for a Bitcoin treasury company. Our target for the year is $15 billion. And so he's valuing the business that's generating $8.4 billion of shareholder value at zero. And he's hoping that somehow the equity will trade to NAV. But what he's not paying attention to is, if we can issue preferred shares that yield 10% and invest it in Bitcoin, which has been going up 57% for the past 4.5 years, we're capturing the 47% arbitrage effectively risk-free for our common stock shareholders. And if you want to value the company, you have to value the company's ability to generate Bitcoin yield or Bitcoin gains over and above the actual holdings of the Bitcoin the company has.
Do you want to respond to this, or should we listen to Jim's response?
Before we get to Jim's response, Logan, pull up. I won't pretend to know exactly where MicroStrategy's stock is going, but I will say that this looks prime for, not financial advice, prime for a short squeeze. If you look at how much that stock is being shorted right now, Bitcoin runs, the stock runs, like, it's a good way to get blown out. If you're Chanos, when it comes to, he's leaning into Bitcoin yield there too. And that's another thing. I think you mentioned this last week about strategy's proof of reserve and lack thereof and the hand waviness around it. Like, if the premium to NAV turns into a discount to NAV, like if they're using Bitcoin per share as their key API that they're or KPI, that they're targeting, like the only way to keep that increasing when you go to a discount is to sell Bitcoin and buy back your shares.
He at least wants to leave the option open, but he could also sell the preferred shares, which are a separate pool of funds, and buy the common stock with it now that he has the 3 sets of preferred. And did you see the Bloomberg reporter pronounced it Chanos? So maybe it is Chanos.
Maybe it is Chanos.
Chanos. She's actually a professional. Anyway, let's listen to Jim's response.
Michael Saylor is a wonderful salesman, but that's what he is. He's a salesman. And what he's selling investors is the concept that you give me your money and I'm just going to go buy Bitcoin. And hopefully the value of my stock trades at a premium to the value of that Bitcoin. And so as long as I can keep doing that, I generate value. And this is, of course, I called it financial gibberish, because on top of that, he also said in your interview, he said, the company should not just be valued on the basis of the Bitcoin holdings, but on a multiple of the profits that accrue from when I do this financial alchemy. And I pointed out on social media, I said, well, that's akin to saying, well, my house that rose in value from $450,000 to $500,000 last year is not worth $500,000. It's worth $1.5 million, because it's worth the $500,000 plus a 20 multiple on the $50,000 increase. And of course, that's absurd. But that's the claim he's making. And let me just interject really importantly here. I'm actually doing what he is advocating, right? I am selling MicroStrategy securities to buy Bitcoin. Let's be clear, it's a hedge trade. I don't know where Bitcoin is going to go.
And it doesn't matter to you, actually.
It doesn't matter. The premium compressing matters to me. It's important to understand that in 2024 and 2025, mostly at the end of 24 and 25, MicroStrategy has sold $35 billion, roughly, of securities, $33 billion in common and convertible into common, and $2 billion in preferred, most recently. The market for the preferred stock that he's selling is tiny relative to common. Let's be clear about that. And in his own words that you just played back, he makes a case that you have to be crazy to buy these preferreds, right? He's going to pay you a dividend, maybe. It's not redeemable. Mm-hmm. It's perpetual. And if I don't pay the dividends, they're not cumulative. I don't have to pay the back dividends. So, who in their right mind institutionally would buy these preferreds?
There seems to be a lot of people buying them, Jim.
Yeah. I will say that it doesn't seem like a retarded trade, right? Like he's got it's an interesting trade because he's long Bitcoin. He's just going after the premium. What we did see with MSTR most recently is he didn't sell any common stock to buy Bitcoin, and he just sold preferred to buy Bitcoin. And my guess is Saylor is starting to take this personal. He's going to try and run up that premium and try and fuck over the short sellers that are in this strategy right now. Because he's that type of guy. And that's one of the things I respect about him. He's like takes it personal and just fucking puts his foot on the pedal. That said, I do, I said earlier that I'm getting 2017 vibes, and this is not, doesn't mean it's exactly like 2017. It's just vibes, right? It's just like feelings. And I said that about the infighting that was happening over Bitcoin Dev. But also on this front, on the Bitcoin stock front. And where I'm getting those vibes is that in 2017, I believed the best strategy was to stay humble and stack sats. And ICOs were just popping the fuck off in spring of 2017, early, like until like late summer, maybe even early fall, ICOs were just like popping the fuck off. And it looked like everyone was a genius except for those people who stay humbled and stack sats, right? It's like you were holding Bitcoin in self-custody and you were the fucking idiot. You were missing out on massive gains. There was just like this shininess that was going on over there that you were just missing out on all of it. And it turned out that we weren't crazy. It turned out that whole thing just blew the fuck up. Now, I'm not saying that Bitcoin stocks are going to blow the fuck up and everyone's going to get fucking wrecked. What I am saying is that I have been wrong so far in that these things are trading at way higher premiums than I expected. And people are getting way higher gains than self-custody Bitcoin. That's just a fucking fact. And if you actually look at Jim's strategy, you could actually see it potentially. I'm surprised. Maybe it's just because he doesn't have the avenues to do it. There's not enough liquidity or whatnot. But like Metapon is trading at like 5x NAV, right? MSTR is only trading at 2.
7.
7. There you go. So you're like buying $700,000 Bitcoin effectively. I'm obviously that's a little bit simplistic, but I will just say from my own perspective, as someone who, by the way, is not inherently humble. Like people also get that piece wrong. Like the reason we repeat it so often is because it's a good reminder for myself as well. Like you need to keep the ego in check and not get greedy because you will get wrecked. I'm sitting on the sidelines here being like, do you sell a little bit of Bitcoin and put it into whatever Bitcoin stock or whatever? And that's the vibe I felt in 2017. Like I feel that almost the same exact vibe of like, I know that just objectively worse for me to hold this ICO, and it's with the ICOs, they were just straight scams too. but it's objectively worse for me to hold that. But they're making so much money. Like maybe I should just dip my toe in. And in this case, it's objectively worse to have to trust your broker, to trust the operators of the business, to trust all the counterparties that they rely on. But they're making so much money, and you just have this like shiny thing over there. And it really feels like that. But I'm just going to stay almost exact about it. But that's just me talking, my feelings.
Very similar feelings too. And it's like, I respect a lot of the people going after this, but I do worry. Like it's almost too good to be true. Like again, we talked about this, and I've written about this, posted on Nostr and X. Like, what interests me at the end of the day is people building good businesses, providing value to the economy, profitable businesses, shuffle it into Bitcoin. Like, that's what I'm excited about. And who knows? It could be the very early stages. It's June 2025.
I think it's still quite early.
Yeah, like this could run for the next year and a half, next 2 years, who knows? But like you said too, everybody's feeling good when the getting's good, but things turn on a dime.
It turns so quick.
Something will happen. You'll be convinced that we're in Supercycle. These companies are effectively speculative attacking the dollars in the dollar system, and we've tipped over into hyper Bitcoinization. Hey, maybe that does happen, but just pattern recognition from cycles past has that humble don't go for it, Marty, don't go for it voice in my head.
It feels like 2017 in that regard, right?
Yeah.
Mo Measy is asking about my Silk Road hat. That's finitesupply.co.
Yep.
Our good friend Skylar made that hat and made the Sats hat that Marty's wearing. One of the best designers in the world, not just in Bitcoin. The other piece, Marty, that feels like it is like all the influencers are becoming advisors, which anyone who was around in 2017, do you remember the old, like the advisor web pages?
Mm-hmm.
It was like, what shirt is Vitalik wearing today?
Yep.
Oh, let's pump that one.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, I know people are going to get super tribal about it because also like ICOs, everyone's a bag holder and they don't want you to talk shit about their bag. But it's just a vibe. It's just a vibe I'm getting. I try and be honest with you freaks. I try and be incredibly transparent, and it's how I'm currently feeling out there.
Yeah. Somebody clip and bookmark this. Maybe it'll prove to be sage advice a year from now. And that's something that is not the show is not unknown for. There's plenty of clips you can take from many of the early episodes throughout the years that we said something way in advance and ended up happening, and we got made fun of the whole time while
the whole time. I want, by the way, I told Pseudo Carlos to join us since you brought that up. He's listening to the entire back catalog and like clipping out parts. So I thought it'd be fun to have him on for an episode. He couldn't this week, but we need to have your Gen Z dev on. Moses, is his name Moses?
Moses, yeah.
We need to have Moses on, and we need to have Pseudo Carlos on. I told him. He finally got to the part where I called him a former ride or die freak because he said he liked morning reps. He's like in 21 or 22 or something now.
Carlos, can't wait to have you on. Moses, you too. We've got more on this list. Let's get through it.
It's a long ass episode, but the internet went down, so it's just us.
Yeah, the HRF Bitcoin Dev Fund 5-year report is out, so it's hard to believe HRF's been in this game of Bitcoin development funding for 5 years already. But yeah, there's a nice, how many pages is this? It's beautifully done on the internet too. 32-page report going through everything from why funding financial freedom products matters, about the Bitcoin Development Fund, 5 years of impact, the journey of the Bitcoin Development Fund, origins and evolution, Bitcoin core contributors, project spotlights, testimonials, what's next, and a thank you. So if you're interested in staying up to speed with how the HRF has contributed to the Bitcoin and Nostr and now AI space, adding Justin Moon to their team to push the AI efforts, go check it out. This is beautifully done.
Yeah, I mean, incredible work from the team at HRF for the last 5 years, and incredible work on the report. If you care about concerns over dev capture, if you care about concerns over dev funding, if you care about concerns over giving node operators more options and Bitcoin users more options and tools, consider reading the report.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody over there. Alex, CK, Femi, Alex, Judy, Arsh. Everybody working HRF. Important stuff. Yep.
I had Femi on Dispatch this week. Go listen to that. We talked about the 5 years of HRF. That was the topic.
Yeah. Go check that out. Next up on the list, we have Zeus version 0.11.0 being released. Features
Cashew, baby.
Experimental Cashew, eCash support, swaps, new Lightning address types, and more. So Cashew having its moment in the sun. And it is crazy. Did you see Callie's note and tweet? Yes, I believe it was yesterday. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. It's crazy how it started. I forgot, like, it just started with Callie fucking around over a weekend. So Callie, earlier today.
Yeah, just like holding my beer.
Yeah. In September 14th, 2022, he tweeted out, happy to present Cashew, a Chaumian eCash wallet, and Mint with early Bitcoin Lightning support. Disclaimer, I'm not a cryptographer. There are likely serious bugs in Cashews. I built this over the weekend, so it's very unfinished and probably broken. And here we are, almost 3 years later. And Cashew is now implemented in Zeus and many other wallets and seems to be a critical piece of infrastructure that people are building on.
Yeah, I mean, Callie's a legend among men. And just to put it together with the other topics that we had, he actually was, for that project, when he released that project, he was the recipient of a bounty for building a Bitcoin-powered eCash tool, and that was funded by Strike, held by HRF, and then administered by OpenSats. So it was like a nice little three-way partnership on that one. The OpenSats board had to approve the bounties. But just to go back to Zeus real quick, because Evan fucking crushed it. And I also had Evan on Saylor Dispatch recently, and we talked about it at length. I really like his setup, which is historically Zeus has been a power user self-custody wallet. And so it keeps all of that intact. But you can start with Cashew, and then you can graduate into a proper self-custody situation. And the beauty of Cashew, because it's an open interoperable protocol for custodians, is he doesn't have to run a custodian. You can just choose whichever mint you want to use and then gracefully move over to self-custody.
The graduated wallet model. I love it. It's gaining in popularity, gaining in traction, all because of developers like Evan and Callie and everybody else contributing to their own projects. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin. We talk about this a lot at 1031. As all these teams, whether they're open source teams or companies building on the open source protocol, one team can build something, another can benefit. So here's an example of the open source team building on Cashew, providing benefit for Zeus's wallet. And there were many contributors along the way. Like you mentioned, Strike put up a bounty. Another example of this, Strike, I think they experimented with Bolt 12 and really pushed Bolt 12 invoices ahead Now everybody can implement that. We see it with partially signed Bitcoin transaction standards, hardware wallets working together. It's a beautiful thing, building on permissionless, interoperable, open source networks. Everybody can benefit. Last but not least,
100%.
keep having people hit me up on Signal. I'm getting it's not last, second to last but not least. Cove Wallet released on Apple App Store. Android's coming next, but we've talked about this. This was in test flight for quite a while, but this is a very sexy mobile Bitcoin wallet that works and doesn't collect your data.
So the maintainer of this is Praveen. He's a fucking rock star. Myself and a few other people have worked closely with him on feedback. He's being funded by OpenSats, fully FOSS native Bitcoin wallet. The goal here is creating a easy to use Sparrow alternative on mobile. I will be having him on Dispatch shortly, sometime in the next 2 weeks. But to go more into depth on it, but you should, if you have an iPhone, you should check out the wallet, play around with it. A lot of care has been put into it. Because it's a native wallet, it's not as easy to do cross-platform. He needs to still put together the UI for Android, but you get a lot of benefits. Like the performance is really fantastic, and it's less than 20 megs in size, which is really, really impressive. So high performant, really good on-chain Bitcoin wallet that you can use with hardware wallets. It has all the power user functions you'd expect, but is also incredibly easy to use. And maybe it's a little too early, but it's the easiest way to use a cold card. You just use a cold card directly with it. You don't need a computer. I think it has NFC support. Yeah. But it definitely has QR. Yeah, QR and NFC support. I've used it with QR. But yeah, QR and NFC support. You can use it with a cold card. You can use it with a bunch of other hardware wallets. And he's going to iterate over time and add more features. But the goal is to try and basically give you an easy path and then also give you a power user path, which I think, honestly, Sparrow has done a pretty good job with. But a lot of people demand mobile wallets. Mobile first is kind of where we're going with a lot of things. And I respect the fact that Craig refuses to make a mobile wallet. So I'm glad Praveen is doing it.
Shout out to Praveen. Shout out to Cove Wallet. Incredible piece of software there. Go test it out. I'm going to do that later tonight. Last but not least, the Trump card is coming, and it's already got 15,000 people signed up on the waiting list.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of random, but I put it on the list because, first of all, I think if I was an American and I could afford it, I would probably pay $5 million for a fast track to U.S. residency. And kind of the beauty of this, by the way, too, is I think you can choose if you want to go towards the citizenship, but you also have the choice to not become a citizen if you don't want to be in our tax regime. Like you still have to pay taxes for American domiciled stuff and businesses you build here, but not foreign stuff unless you become a citizen, which is an interesting dynamic. But the all-in guys, which I hate listening to every episode of theirs. They even speculated that people would buy this card for like founders, right? It's like if you're investing in a startup that's based abroad, like you should give the founder the optionality to be able to move to America and build his business here and have the protections that America provides for your family and the robust infrastructure we have. And I honestly don't think they're that wrong. By the way, since I mentioned All In, 7 years, Rabbit Hole recap every week. Trump and Elon get into a fight, zip from All In. They just disappeared.
Crickets. We were here.
What the fuck is that?
We were here breaking it down.
What the fuck is that? That is the saddest shit ever. Did they have any public statement about it? I don't even know if they had a public statement about it.
No, they're keeping an eye. There were some funny memes going around of David Sachs in the White House being like, "Mom, will you come pick me up?" Imagine it had to be particularly conflicting for the host of that podcast, particularly a few of them.
Yeah, but your fucking dad died, and we still did a rabbit hole recap. Like, this is the fucking lamest shit ever.
It's true. You know, they're busy. They're busy. You know, they'll come out this week. They'll hand wave around it, and they'll probably have some good quips. But you have it in the show notes. 15,000 people have signed up for this already. Did the math on my calculator. $75 billion in revenue that would provide, which is pretty significant.
Well, to be clear, it's impossible to verify that number. Right before he went live, Trump posted on Truth Social that it was 15,000 people on the wait list, and it only went live yesterday. Which, by the way, the best way to follow Trump on Truth Social is there's a bot on Nostr.
Yeah,
we're archiving all of his posts.
I'm not going to lie, brother. I think I need to take a nap. I didn't sleep at all last night.
We're good. This is one of the longest episodes we've done in a long time.
Not on YouTube either. It will be later, maybe. Yeah. The internet stuff.
I mean, yeah. I'm like, once again, I'm impressed that X stayed up. And I'm impressed that Zapstream stayed up. So we have that going for us. But we'll post to YouTube afterwards. One last thing I would just say is on the loan thing. Where I'm coming from it personally, in terms of me thinking about Bitcoin collateralized loans, and I do have a very small loan out with Strike right now, is the fucking US government not only did not help me save in Bitcoin and accrue purchasing power over time, but they actively tried to make our lives miserable and make it as difficult as possible for us. And I'm sick of paying them cap gains tax, man. I'm just super sick of paying them cap gains tax. And so if I could take out a little loan and not pay them cap gains tax, like it's fucking insane that they just make it incredibly difficult for you to save. And then once you actually accrue value, they just they're like, "Oh, time for my piece."
Yeah, give me
your piece.
Give me a quarter to a third of that, please. I'll take that.
I thought of it because of the dynamics of the Trump card, that they might not be in the tax regime, even though they get the benefits. It is what it is. Anyway, sorry, Marty. I went longer.
Hopefully we get cap gains tax eliminated. You know,
it'd be wonderful. I support it.
Really,
I think for starters, we should be owning the narrative. It's savings tax. They're taxing savings. And they're taxing savings specifically on middle income people, because the poor don't have savings and the rich borrow against their savings and don't pay taxes. So it's literally just for the middle that is getting taxed on their savings, and it's fucked up.
Yeah. And the rich are well versed on setting up exotic trust structures that protect them from the taxes.
I don't want to do that. It sounds really complicated and expensive.
Doesn't seem fun. I've talked to people doing it. It seems very expensive and like a massive headache. Just end the taxes.
No tax on savings.
There's no tax. Let's just do no taxes. Maybe like consumption tax.
I support that too. I'd rather fight about that than Bitcoin policy changes.
Yes. Well, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Hell of a rip. We're not going to miss a week. Bitcoin could stop working, and I think we'd show up the next week just to have a, hey, what happened?
Yeah, like we were fucking wrong. Like Bitcoin could literally go to zero. Whole network could fail. The whole world could switch to Ripple, and there would still be an RHR that week. And the all-in guys were like, oh no, like our two buddies, they got into a fight. Like there's no way we can handle this. And they're not even a live show. They could edit it after the fact if they said something wrong. Fucking lame as fuck.
Note it. Spread the word. Let your friends know. All in.
RHR is the real all in.
Yeah. Well, all in's an RHR copycat for
Yeah, cheap knockoff clone podcast.
Yeah, can't buy integrity, can't buy taste. We've got it in spades here, freaks. We'll see you next week.
Stay humble, stack sets.
Peace and love.